The special edition of Oddball, ex-Colorado Congressman Tom Tancreno hoist on his own petard by none other than Marcos Molitzis on The Ed Show this evening, guest hosted by David Schuster. As the Python boys used to say, run away! Let's play Oddball.
Medicare has already got lots and lots of problems, and I do think it's a problem. Absolutely. You can't keep doctors
so how about
in
the
it because
Veterans Administration? The Veterans Administration is a single-payer system. Everybody in the military who was treated yesterday. So the military members, their healthcare system, that's also a threat to our freedom.
Talk to every veterans group I ever went and talked to complained about the Veterans Administration and the way it was a bureaucratically run program that didn't serve their needs. They would much rather have vouchers that would allow them to go out and buy their insurance in a private marketplace. They've talked about it. At least you're laughing. You may, but talk to the veterans. They talked to me, and that's what they said.
Marcos?
So I'm telling you, there is no government-run...
Tom, I'm a veteran, okay? I did not get a deferment because I was too depressed to fight in a war that I supported in Vietnam. I'm a veteran, Tom.
Yeah, well, that's
they want a more effective. They want a more effective VA.
You cannot.
That's more money.
No, you're not going to do. You're not going to do that. You're not going to try to insult me that way and then pretend like we're just going on and talk about that. You either apologize.
I'm not pretending anything. I told you straight up. The issue here is what the Republicans are afraid of. This is a threat to Republicans. They built an entire ideology predicated on telling people that government does not work.
Yeah, kitty. He actually did get a deferment for depression. The man thought he might become president of the United States. No, of America.
But like President Bush, he never went to Dover either. Never. And a reminder, Mr. Cheney successfully sought out 5 deferments from the draft to avoid having to serve his country in the Vietnam War.
It was just inevitable that you were going to get drafted.
But the draft wasn't inevitable for the son of Congressman George Bush Sr.
Hey, this is Bob Reddy with your National Guard Hope. And I want to tell you that the story of today's Army and Air National Guard is something all Americans...
What Bob Hope doesn't mention is that getting into the Guard is a way of getting out of Vietnam. With just 12 days to go before he became subject to the draft, George Bush applies for the Air Guard. The problem for George was there are 100,000 would-be draft dodgers lined up ahead of him.
For George W. Bush to get into the Texas Air Guard, safest unit in the military, he had to take a test. And he scored out of a possible 125, just 1 point above too dumb to fly. But that didn't stop young George from getting that plum position in the cockpit.
To find out how low-score George got the Top Gun job, I spoke with fighter pilot Bill White.
So, Bill, this is the plane you actually flew?
Yes.
And you flew one of these onto one of those?
No one, to my knowledge, has ever gone into the Air National Guard as a non-pilot and gotten pilot training in the Guard. That's completely unprecedented. Never happened in the history of the Guard. Every pilot that ever has served in the National Guard legitimately paid their dues, spent 3.5 years to 5 years flying on active duty, and only then were they a candidate for admission to the National Guard as a pilot.
Privilege has a price, paid by others.
We were sent there to defend our liberties. And to find out that the politicians who sent myself and the other young men to put our lives into harm's way were working a personal, selfish agenda instead of a national agenda is anathema to everything that we fought for and stood for.
So how did young George Bush get the job of defending Houston from Viet Cong attack, despite a score of 25 out of 100? The answer dropped onto my desk in Washington.
I got my hands on a letter from someone who explained how the draft dodge fix was done. It says, George Bush leaped over thousands of young men, some of whom died in Vietnam. So I tracked down one of the guys named in the letter. He confessed to the whole thing. He said he made the call at the request of someone acting in the name of Congressman George Bush Sr.
But others without congressmen for daddies went. Some did not return. An issue that would haunt George Bush Jr.'s political career. Not just whether he dodged the draft into the Guard, but also whether he even showed up for duty.
We're here today to offer a $1,000 reward to anybody who bring tangible evidence to us, records showing us that he attended guard duty while he was here in Alabama.
No one's claimed the reward, so I figured I'd pick up an easy $1,000 by getting George Bush's Vietnam War records in Houston.
Camp Mabry, HQ of the Texas National Guard. This is where the Vietnam War records of fighter pilot George W. Bush were supposed to be kept.
But they're missing. Who can we talk to about these disappearing records?
I think you ought to listen to what the general said, who was in charge of my unit, and he said there was no preferential treatment given.
But it's very difficult to talk to George's general. The general is dead. So I drove down to an Abilene, Texas cattle ranch to meet with the general's assistant, Lieutenant Colonel Bill Burkett. He was very familiar with the records that would prove whether young George served his country.
This is 28 years of a military career, all boiled down to paper. This is the retirement points. All of these are orders.
But Bush's military records are oddly incomplete. What happened to those papers? Lieutenant Colonel Burkett was working in the Air Guard headquarters at Camp Mabry, talking with the general, when a telephone call came in from Governor Bush's people.
They wanted to assemble all of the governor's files. They wanted to make sure there was nothing in there that would embarrass the governor. That's as accurate as I can put it.
And you heard that off the voice box yourself?
Yes.
The call came in from this woman's office, Karen Hughes, Governor Bush's chief of staff.
Now, they wouldn't go along with a call from a politician actually clean the files, would they?
Yes.
They would?
Yes.
Did they?
Yes. And there were several documents, and I saw that they had George W. Bush's name at the top of them. And this was a bin that was about to be shredded. The specific document that I do remember was a pay document. A second specific document that I remember was a retirement points document. That, in fact, might explain some tremendous gaps in the record. It makes no sense. This was during the Vietnam War, yes. And did he show up for training? There's no documentation at all that he showed up.
Are you saying that the president may have been AWOL, taken off during the war?
If you look at the definition of absent without leave, which is used to court-martial individuals, he met those ramifications of those charges.
I heard George Bush get up and say, I served in the 187th Air National Guard in Montgomery, Alabama. Really? You know, that was my unit. And I don't remember seeing you there. So I called friends, you know, did you know that George served in our unit? No, I never saw him there. It would be impossible to be unseen in a unit of that size.
Frankly, we went there because Al-Qaeda was already there. They may not have the force they have now, but they were there. And essentially, if we leave there, we give them a stronghold.
But while these college Republicans supported the war in Iraq with all their hearts, they seemed reluctant to participate in it.
Why are you not fighting them over there?
Why am I not fighting them over there? Because I'm in college right now.
Do you plan to enlist?
I haven't ruled it out.
Are you going to serve?
I've thought about it, thinking about it, undecided.
Undecided. Why aren't you serving just currently?
Well, I'm an undergraduate right now, and I had a scholarship for Global Bright Futures, and I didn't have any strong urge.
Why am I not serving? Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I really support this country strongly, and I didn't enlist. I mean, there's not much else I can say. I don't think you can't talk about this issue if you're not serving.
What might not convince me not to join is if somehow I become like a really good speaker and stuff like that. That's what would convince me not to join.
Yeah.
The thing that would convince me to join is if something even bigger happened.
If you support the war, why are you not serving in the military?
Yeah. For some reason, the college Republicans I met had a curiously high level of health problems.
Is that it's a term frequently used in pornography. And as Al Franken once pointed out long ago in his scholarly text, Rush Limbaugh is a big fat idiot, one of Limbaugh's explanations for his deferment from the draft was a palladial cyst, a growth that is in the region